Chosen one, you passed a major test and didn't even know it. You did well. When you are told that you passed a major test without even realizing it, it can feel confusing at first. Most people expect important moments to be dramatic, obvious, and clearly labeled. But many of the most meaningful tests in life are quiet. They happen in ordinary situations, in moments of frustration, temptation, fatigue, or uncertainty. They show up when no one is watching, when there is no audience to applaud your choices, and when the only witness is your own conscience. These are the moments that shape who you become far more than any public achievement ever could. Stay with this message until the very end, because clarity grows as each layer unfolds. And write your warmest wishes in the comments and include the number 144 as a symbol of focused intention and positive alignment. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves entirely to growth, character, and the internal shifts that prepare you for what comes next. Now, chosen one, press the hype button like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. Passing a major test does not always mean that you handled everything perfectly. It often means that you handled it better than you used to. Growth is not about flawless behavior. It is about improved awareness, stronger boundaries, calmer reactions, and wiser decisions over time. You may not have felt heroic. You may not have felt proud in the moment. But you responded differently, and that difference matters. One sign that you passed an important test is that you chose restraint where you once would have reacted. You paused before speaking. You walked away from conflict instead of escalating it. You chose patience instead of proving a point. These choices may have felt small, but they represent a major shift in emotional maturity. Another sign is that you protected your self-respect when it would have been easier to compromise it. You did not chase validation. You did not beg for attention or approval. You accepted situations for what they were and chose dignity over desperation. That choice reflects a deep change in how you value yourself. You may also have passed a test related to discipline. You kept going when motivation was low. You completed tasks even when no one was checking. You honored commitments you made to yourself. This kind of discipline is invisible to most people, but it builds trust in yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Sometimes the test is about not repeating old patterns. You may have noticed a familiar situation arise, one that used to pull you into drama, distraction, or self-sabotage. This time, you responded differently. You recognized the pattern and chose not to engage. That awareness is not accidental. It is evidence that you are learning from experience rather than reliving it. Another way people pass major tests is by choosing growth over comfort. You may have taken responsibility instead of avoiding it. You may have faced a difficult conversation instead of pretending nothing was wrong. You may have made a decision that felt uncomfortable in the short term, but healthier in the long term. These are the choices that quietly change the direction of your life. You may also have passed a test related to emotional regulation. Instead of letting stress control your behavior, you managed your reactions. You took a breath. You gave yourself time before responding. You avoided saying or doing things you would later regret. This ability to stay grounded under pressure is a powerful form of strength. Another sign of passing a test is that you did not abandon yourself to please others. You spoke up when something did not feel right. You set a boundary. You chose honesty over harmony. This kind of self-respect often goes unnoticed, but it protects your well-being and shapes healthier relationships. You may also have passed a test related to patience. You waited instead of forcing outcomes. You trusted timing instead of pushing situations that were not ready. This patience prevents many unnecessary mistakes and protects future opportunities. Sometimes the test is about how you treat yourself when things do not go as planned. Instead of harsh self-criticism, you showed yourself understanding. You focused on solutions rather than blame. This self-compassion supports resilience and keeps you moving forward instead of stuck in regret. You may also have passed a test by choosing consistency over excitement. You stayed committed to routines, habits, or goals even when progress felt slow. This kind of consistency is what turns small efforts into meaningful results over time. Another quiet test is how you handle success. You did not become arrogant. You did not assume you were finished growing. You remained humble and open to learning. This humility protects long-term progress because it keeps you adaptable. You may also have passed a test related to honesty. You were truthful with yourself about what needed to change. You did not make excuses. You acknowledged areas where you could improve. This honesty is essential for growth because it allows you to address real issues instead of avoiding them. Sometimes the test is about letting go. You released resentment instead of holding on to it. You accepted closure instead of chasing explanations. You chose peace over being right. These choices free up emotional energy that can be invested in building something better. You may also have passed a test related to responsibility. You owned your role in situations instead of blaming circumstances or other people. This ownership gives you power to change what is within your control. Another important test is how you manage temptation. You resisted impulses that would have created problems later. You chose long-term stability over short-term pleasure. This self-control strengthens trust in your own decision-making. You may also have passed a test by staying focused when distractions were strong. You did not allow noise, gossip, or comparison to pull you off your path. You protected your attention, and attention is one of the most valuable resources you have. Sometimes the test is about courage. You did something that felt scary but necessary. You applied for an opportunity, started a difficult task, or ended a situation that no longer served you. Courage does not always look dramatic. Often it looks like quiet, determined action. You may also have passed a test related to forgiveness. You chose not to carry anger forward. You allowed yourself to move on. This emotional release supports mental clarity and physical health. Another way people pass major tests is by choosing learning over defensiveness. When feedback or challenges appeared, you listened instead of shutting down. You reflected instead of reacting. This openness accelerates growth. You may also have passed a test by managing your energy wisely. You rested when you needed to. You did not push yourself into exhaustion just to meet external expectations. This respect for your limits supports long-term productivity. Sometimes the test is about trusting yourself. You made a decision without waiting for constant reassurance. You accepted responsibility for the outcome. This trust builds independence and confidence. You may also have passed a test by maintaining integrity when cutting corners would have been easier. You chose to do things properly, even if it took longer. This integrity protects your reputation and self-respect. Another quiet test is how you handle uncertainty. Instead of panicking, you stayed present and focused on what you could control. This calm supports better problem-solving. You may also have passed a test related to persistence. You did not quit when things became difficult or boring. You stayed committed through routine and repetition. This persistence is what turns effort into achievement. Sometimes the test is about self-awareness. You noticed your emotional state and took steps to regulate it. You did not let frustration or fatigue dictate your behavior. This awareness strengthens emotional intelligence. You may also have passed a test by choosing quality over speed. You took time to do things well instead of rushing just to finish. This attention to quality improves outcomes. Another important test is how you treat others when you are stressed. You remained respectful. You did not lash out. You maintained basic kindness even when under pressure. This behavior reflects strong character. You may also have passed a test by prioritizing your long-term goals over temporary distractions. You said no to things that would have delayed your progress. This focus supports steady advancement. Sometimes the test is about believing in your own growth. You recognize that you are not the same person you were before. You allowed yourself to move forward without constantly revisiting past mistakes. This forward focus supports confidence. You may also have passed a test by choosing stability over chaos. You created structure where there used to be inconsistency. You committed to routines that support health and productivity. This structure builds reliability. Another quiet test is how you manage disappointment. Instead of giving up, you adjusted expectations and continued working. This adaptability protects momentum. You may also have passed a test by setting realistic expectations for yourself. You did not demand perfection. You aimed for progress. This realism supports persistence. Sometimes the test is about letting yourself be proud of improvement. You acknowledged growth without needing external validation. This internal recognition strengthens self-esteem. You may also have passed a test by staying honest in difficult conversations. You spoke calmly and clearly instead of avoiding or attacking. This communication supports healthier relationships. Another way people pass major tests is by staying committed to values even when it costs convenience. You chose what was right rather than what was easy. This alignment strengthens identity. You may also have passed a test by remaining patient with slow progress. You trusted the process instead of constantly questioning it. This trust reduces stress and supports consistency. Sometimes the test is simply about showing up. You did not disappear when things became challenging. You stayed engaged. This presence builds experience and skill. You may also have passed a test by choosing growth over comfort. You stepped outside your comfort zone and allowed yourself to learn. This willingness supports development. As this first part settles, understand this clearly. Passing a major test does not always come with celebration or recognition. Often, it comes quietly, through better choices, calmer reactions, stronger boundaries, and greater self-respect. You may not have realized it at the time, but the way you handled recent situations shows that you are not operating from the same mindset you once had. That change matters. It means you are becoming more prepared for responsibility, stability, and opportunity. And that is why this moment deserves acknowledgement. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are handling life with more awareness, discipline, and integrity than before. This is not the end of growth. It is evidence that growth is already happening. As you continue moving forward from this quiet success, you may begin to notice that your confidence grows in a calmer and more stable way. It is not the loud confidence that comes from external praise, but the grounded confidence that comes from knowing you handled something well. This kind of confidence changes how you approach new challenges because you trust your ability to respond wisely even when situations are unfamiliar. You may also notice that your expectations of yourself become more balanced. You no longer expect perfection, but you do expect effort and honesty. This balance reduces self-criticism while still supporting growth. You hold yourself accountable without being harsh, which allows improvement to continue without burnout. Another important shift is how you handle stress. Instead of becoming overwhelmed quickly, you recognize stress signals earlier and make adjustments sooner. You rest when needed, reorganize priorities, or ask for support. This proactive response protects both your health and your performance. You may also find that your emotional awareness continues to improve. You can tell when you are tired, frustrated, or uncertain, and you respond accordingly rather than ignoring these signals. This awareness helps you prevent small issues from becoming larger problems. As your self-trust strengthens, you may also become more decisive. You do not stay stuck in overthinking as long as before. You gather information, reflect, and then move forward. This decisiveness keeps momentum alive and reduces anxiety about making the wrong choice. You may also notice that your sense of discipline becomes more natural. You follow through on plans because you trust your own structure, not because you are forcing yourself. This consistency builds reliability and reinforces confidence in your ability to manage responsibilities. Another shift is how you approach learning from experience. You reflect on what worked and what did not, and you adjust strategies instead of repeating the same mistakes. This learning mindset accelerates progress and prevents stagnation. You may also find that your relationships benefit from your increased emotional stability. You communicate more calmly, listen more carefully, and respond more thoughtfully. This improves trust and reduces unnecessary conflict. As you continue to build on this growth, you may notice that your tolerance for unhealthy patterns decreases. You are less willing to participate in dynamics that drain your energy or undermine your self-respect. This selectivity protects emotional well-being. You may also experience increased patience with long-term goals. You understand that meaningful change takes time, and you remain committed even when progress feels slow. This patience supports steady improvement. Another important development is how you handle setbacks. Instead of seeing them as signs of failure, you treat them as temporary obstacles that can be addressed. This resilience keeps you engaged rather than discouraged. You may also notice that your ability to manage responsibilities increases. You organize tasks more effectively, set realistic deadlines, and follow through. This organization reduces stress and improves performance. As your awareness grows, you may also become more intentional about protecting your mental space. You limit exposure to negativity and distractions that disrupt focus. This protection supports clarity and productivity. You may also find that your sense of purpose becomes clearer. You understand better what you are working toward and why. This clarity strengthens motivation and direction. Another shift is how you interpret feedback from others. You extract what is useful and let go of what is not. This balanced response supports growth without harming confidence. You may also notice that your confidence becomes more consistent across different areas of life. You trust your ability to learn, adapt, and improve in new situations. This adaptability supports courage and exploration. As your self-respect strengthens, you may also become more comfortable setting boundaries. You say no when necessary and protect your time and energy. This boundary setting supports balance and reduces resentment. You may also find that your emotional reactions to uncertainty continue to soften. You trust that you can handle challenges as they arise. This trust reduces fear of the unknown. Another important development is how you manage expectations of others. You communicate needs clearly and do not overextend yourself to gain approval. This honesty supports healthier relationships. You may also notice that your discipline extends to self-care. You prioritize rest, nutrition, and recovery as part of productivity rather than as optional extras. This care supports long-term effectiveness As you continue to grow, you may also become more comfortable with gradual progress. You measure improvement over weeks and months rather than days. This perspective protects patience. You may also find that your confidence in your own values strengthens. You make decisions based on what aligns with your principles rather than on external pressure. This integrity supports peace of mind. Another shift is how you approach challenges that once felt intimidating. You face them with curiosity instead of avoidance. This openness supports learning and development. You may also notice that your sense of gratitude becomes more focused on personal growth rather than only on external circumstances. You appreciate the skills and strength you are building. This gratitude stabilizes motivation. As your identity continues to shift toward growth and responsibility, you may also experience increased satisfaction from effort itself, not just from outcomes. This intrinsic motivation supports persistence. You may also find that your emotional balance improves during busy periods. You maintain routines that support recovery and focus. This stability protects health. Another important development is how you handle mistakes publicly or privately. You acknowledge them without excessive shame and correct them with humility. This maturity strengthens credibility. You may also notice that your patience with yourself and others increases. You allow space for learning and adjustment. This patience supports cooperation and teamwork. As this second part settles, understand this. Passing a major test is not only about what you did in one moment, but about the new habits, perspectives, and emotional skills that are now becoming part of who you are. These changes will continue shaping how you handle future challenges, opportunities, and responsibilities. You are not just moving forward by chance. You are moving forward because you are becoming more capable, more self-aware, and more resilient. And that foundation will support every next level you step into. As this growth continues to unfold, you may begin to notice that your sense of emotional independence becomes stronger. You rely less on external reassurance to feel stable and more on your own understanding of who you are and what you are capable of. This shift brings a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced or defended. It simply shows up in how you carry yourself and how you respond to challenges. You may also notice that your reactions to disappointment become more balanced. When things do not go as expected, you process the feeling without letting it derail your direction. You allow yourself to feel, but you do not stay stuck. This ability to recover emotionally is one of the clearest signs of maturity and readiness for greater responsibility. Another important shift is how you handle moments of temptation. When old habits or familiar distractions appear, you are more aware of the consequences of engaging with them. Instead of acting automatically, you pause and choose based on long-term benefit rather than short-term comfort. This conscious choice strengthens discipline and self-respect. You may also find that your sense of personal integrity deepens. You do what you say you will do, even when it is inconvenient. You honor commitments not only to others, but to yourself. This reliability builds trust in your own character, which becomes a powerful source of inner stability. As your self-awareness grows, you may also notice that your communication becomes more thoughtful. You speak with greater intention, choosing words that reflect clarity rather than impulse. You listen more carefully and respond more deliberately. This improves both personal and professional relationships. You may also experience increased comfort with solitude and reflection. You no longer need constant stimulation to feel okay. Quiet moments become opportunities to process experiences, refine goals, and strengthen emotional balance. This inner calm supports clearer thinking. Another shift is how you manage expectations of yourself. You push yourself to grow, but you also allow room for learning. You understand that mastery develops through practice, not perfection. This balanced pressure supports improvement without creating unnecessary stress. You may also notice that your ability to manage complex situations improves. When multiple demands compete for attention, you organize tasks, prioritize effectively, and move forward step by step. This structured approach reduces overwhelm and increases confidence. As you continue to evolve, you may also experience stronger alignment between your actions and your values. You choose behaviors that reflect what you believe is right, even when it requires effort. This alignment strengthens your sense of identity and purpose. You may also find that your emotional reactions to others' opinions become less intense. You listen when feedback is useful, but you are not easily shaken by judgment or criticism. This emotional independence protects confidence and supports authenticity. Another important development is how you approach responsibility in leadership roles, whether formal or informal. You take initiative when needed and support others without needing recognition. This quiet leadership reflects maturity and reliability. You may also notice that your focus becomes more durable. You are less easily pulled away from important tasks by minor distractions. This sustained attention improves productivity and deepens satisfaction with your work. As your confidence in handling pressure grows, you may also become more willing to face difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. You address issues directly but respectfully. This courage strengthens trust and prevents problems from escalating. You may also find that your sense of gratitude becomes more integrated into daily life. You appreciate steady progress, supportive relationships, and small improvements rather than waiting for dramatic changes. This grounded gratitude supports emotional stability. Another shift is how you relate to uncertainty about the future. You stop needing every answer in advance. You trust your ability to adapt and learn as situations evolve. This flexibility reduces anxiety and encourages exploration. You may also notice that your standards for how you spend your time increase. You become more selective about commitments and activities, choosing those that align with growth and well-being. This selectivity protects energy and focus. As your sense of responsibility deepens, you may also experience increased pride in consistency. You value showing up day after day more than dramatic bursts of effort. This reliability builds long-term success. You may also find that your emotional awareness continues to sharpen. You notice subtle shifts in mood and energy and respond early with adjustments. This proactive self-care prevents burnout. Another important development is how you handle praise and recognition. You accept appreciation without letting it inflate your ego or distract you from continued growth. This humility keeps you grounded. You may also notice that your sense of discipline becomes less about force and more about commitment. You do what needs to be done because you have chosen your direction, not because you are afraid of failure. This internal motivation is more sustainable. As you continue moving forward, you may also experience increased clarity about what kind of impact you want to have, not just what you want to achieve. This broader perspective shapes decisions in meaningful ways. You may also find that your patience with processes improves. You trust that skills, stability, and confidence are built over time. This patience reduces frustration and supports persistence. Another shift is how you manage emotional attachment to outcomes. You work hard, but you are not defined by immediate results. This balance protects mental health and keeps learning active. You may also notice that your confidence in your own resilience grows. You know that even if things go wrong, you can recover and adjust. This trust reduces fear of taking responsible risks. As your identity continues to strengthen, you may also experience more peace with your own pace. You stop comparing your timeline to others and focus on what is right for you. This acceptance supports contentment and motivation. You may also find that your sense of direction becomes clearer. You know what you are building and why it matters to you. This clarity supports long-term commitment. Another important development is how you treat yourself after setbacks. You respond with encouragement rather than criticism. This supportive inner dialogue keeps you engaged and learning. You may also notice that your focus on building sustainable habits becomes stronger than your desire for quick fixes. This long-term mindset protects future stability. As this third part settles, understand this. The tests you passed were not about proving perfection, but about demonstrating growth, restraint, integrity, and emotional strength. What is changing within you now is your capacity to handle greater responsibility, deeper relationships, and more meaningful opportunities without losing balance. You are becoming steadier, wiser, and more self-directed. These qualities are not loud, but they are powerful, because they shape the kind of future you can not only reach, but also maintain and continue building. As this phase of growth continues, you may begin to notice that your sense of direction becomes more focused. You are no longer pulled as easily by every new idea or opportunity. Instead, you evaluate whether something truly aligns with what you are building. This discernment protects your time and prevents unnecessary detours. You may also notice that your emotional responses to pressure continue to mature. When expectations increase, you do not immediately interpret that as danger. You recognize it as a sign that you are being trusted with more responsibility. This perspective transforms pressure into a signal of progress, rather than a source of fear. Another important shift is how you handle moments when things move slowly. Instead of becoming discouraged, you use slower periods to strengthen foundations. You refine skills, improve systems, and prepare for future demands. This productive patience ensures that when momentum returns, you are ready to handle it. You may also find that your self-respect becomes more visible in your daily choices. You protect your routines, your health, and your commitments. You stop negotiating with habits that undermine your goals. This consistency builds reliability and reinforces confidence in your ability to follow through. As your sense of responsibility deepens, you may also notice that your thinking becomes more strategic. You consider consequences before acting. You plan steps instead of reacting emotionally. This forward-thinking approach reduces regret and supports sustainable growth. You may also experience increased clarity about what no longer fits in your life. Certain behaviors, environments, or relationships may feel misaligned with who you are becoming. You do not necessarily judge them, but you recognize that growth sometimes requires change. Letting go creates space for better alignment.